have fought your way through various perils and trials in order to face me, the final hurdle. The question is, I have just rolled a dice, and I have rolled either a 5 or a 6. But which is it? Do you feel lucky, punk? Do you? Stop that. Why am I doing a Dark Souls intro? Well, it's quite simply, there comes a point in every podcast where you have to end up speaking to somebody who loves the video game called Dark Souls. So first of all, welcome. This is We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard, and joining me tonight is the fantastic Mr. Jeremy Greer from the various podcasts, including Don't Give Up Skeleton and Dark Insight. And have I covered everything?
Pretty much.
I think so.
Those are my two regulars. I do episodes of Bonfireside Chat, and we are slowly but surely getting closer to the X-Men animated series podcast being funded. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I've seen that. But so, hello, Jeremy. Thank you for coming on. We've obviously spoken before when I was on the Dark Insight episode 22, I think it was. So I'm
so impressed when people remember like what their episode numbers of podcast, but I couldn't possibly tell you anything I've said on a podcast like this week.
It's just a bit of vanity, isn't it? It's the episode. It's the episode of like I know I'm on, so I'm like downloading it, going in, deleting it, downloading it, deleting it, just getting the listening numbers up. So
yeah, so I bring you back on. I see how this goes.
It's a really popular podcast.
All of our other podcasts are about 400 listens, but Richard's is 4,000. That's a weird thing.
That's a lot of clicking. See, that's what I should maybe just go back on it again at some point and help you between you and your current feud with Cliff.
Patty or Cliff. Yeah, me and Cliff are not speaking. Yeah, I've got feuds with everybody in the podcast biz. That's how you get popular. Me and Gary had a feud for a while where because I talked some shit about his cat and he didn't like that, so me and him had the thing, and then we finally buried the hatchet and went on. And now Patty, for some reason, is just calling me the worst all the time, and Cliff is just refusing to podcast with me, like I'm podcast poison. I think that's ridiculous.
So by the end of this, hopefully you will either have gained a good friend for life or you'll have gained another enemy. So let's see
get another enemy to add to the list. I hope my impression of a Dark Souls NPC came across, by the way, because anytime I'm thinking of a Dark Souls character laughing, I think of that weird thing that they all do. So
I was gonna do the one of the serpents, I think, and click my teeth afterwards. Can I go there?
Stop that noise.
Chosen undead. I take you downstairs into my serpent lair.
No.
Like that. Anyway, let's dial it back a bit because we've just... Me and Jeremy, for those you might have guessed, me and Jeremy have kind of grown and kind of talk quite a bit over the last couple of months now, which is good, but it also means for people that are not who are listening to this and going, what the hell is going on between these two? This is just going to be an episode full of nonsense. This is We're Not Wizards. Yes, we're going to talk about some board games. It's not going to be about Dark Souls, though there might be a little bit of Dark Souls. We thought after we did the episode with Gary Butterfield, we did have to kind of bring in a little bit of Dark Souls because I think that people were like, Gary Butterfield's on. That means Dark Souls. And it's like, no. We talked a remarkable non-amount of Dark Souls. But so again, Jeremy, thank you for coming and joining the podcast this evening. For those who want to know why we do this, the reason that we do this is because there are quite simply not enough podcasts about board games. And also, there are quite simply not enough podcasts just being done by two guys.
Yeah, we got to really get the in the podcast charts for two white guys sharing their opinions with the world. Like, and I know Gary made that joke, but it's a joke I make all the time on Don't Give Up Skeleton, so I'm not stealing. Yeah,
it's like Shaun of the Dead. It's like I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing.
Thank you, by the way, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I've been looking forward to this for a while because obviously there's quite a bit of a time difference, just with where you are and where I am. So, trying to get this kind of organised was a little bit of a okay. I mean, I mean, you're in the good position where obviously you're kind of getting into this board gamey role playing type hobby. You're quite new to this, aren't you? Because you've not played a lot of board games and card games and the likes, have you?
I have not. My board game experience is limited to the Monopolies of the world, like all your Hasbro games. Like that was my stuff that we played growing up. And as soon as I discovered video games and realized I could play those by myself and not have to be around my family, I went immediately to video games. Did not pass go. I even played Monopoly by myself on my Super Nintendo one day for 8 hours. Like I was that kid. Because I had a bunch of cousins my age, but they were all kind of like, I don't want to say garbage people, but they're not going to listen to this, so let's just say garbage people. So,
what was it like, Jeremy? What you doing with that TV there? What's he doing with that? There's a box next to the television.
Oh,
do you have to wind that up?
They were very much more into let's go find something and break it, or let's go blow something up, or as we started getting a little older, let's go find this truck and put a new carburetor into it, which I was not interested in that whatsoever.
So you weren't getting your hands dirty, were you?
No, not at all. I don't even sweat when my hands don't sweat when I play video games. They're pristine. It's fantastic.
You have a little nail buffer at the side just in case you don't cleanse a nail, chink a nail, or something like that.
If you can't video game while getting a pedicure at the same time, I don't even want to speak to you.
Is that why when you decided to open up your series of successful nail bars?
Yeah, my nail cage. Yeah, my nail cage, as I like to call them. It's a combination nail bar and arcade.
Playing pedicure. Do you know?
I'm getting run out of business by the barcades that are unfortunately that are popping up everywhere. So
I think they're quite dangerous because obviously they get people drunk while they play. Well, I mean, your feet after they finish, you finish with a pair of feet, and they are just minty fresh. So I've heard, but I've not seen the advert on telly, but I've heard it's quite good.
Well, that's what all the Yelp reviews say. So, and I'm definitely not paying for those. Not at all.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's lots of people that have obviously come from France and Germany and places like that have definitely visited your famous pedicure gaming bar.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway,
they come from all over the world.
No,
we're gonna get on.
We're gonna have to rein you, and this is gonna be we're gonna have to have a safe word or something.
No, does not have a safe word because then we're just gonna start dying laughing every time someone says pineapple. But to go back to board games, I didn't play them, and despite. I was a very nerdy kid, and I knew guys that were playing D&D, and I knew guys that were doing weird board games, but I just never got into it, for one reason or the other. We just never hooked up to make that a normal thing. And then I turned a corner somewhere around 18 or 19 where I was way too cool for that shit, right? Because I'm I would stop playing video games except for just a handful with my friends, and
you start hanging about and going, don't speak to them.
Yeah, I started smoking. I started drinking. I started rolling up packs of cigarettes in my arm sleeve. I was, full greaser mode.
You cool. Did you have a check shirt that was rolled up at the sleeves?
I'm wearing it right now.
Are you? It's the same one.
It's the same one.
It's the same one. I've only had to replace the sleeves 22 times and the main body of the shirt 15 times.
No big deal. I got a sleeve guy down here. Sleeve guy will hook you up, no problem.
So, I mean, obviously, one of the things that we have, and this is interesting because obviously one of the things that we're doing is even though board games are in a golden age at the moment, one of the things we do at We're Not Wizards is if we are talking about something, we'll try and explain it, because we kind of generally like to think that while we're not kind of experts, we make mistakes. I say stupid stuff all the time. But, currently you've been getting into a bit of D&D,
sure.
which is obviously Dungeons and Dragons, which, if anyone's been watching Stranger Things,
yes,
that was a bit of a focus.
I tell you, going there. Watching Stranger Things and watching those kids get so into playing D&D, like it's the very first episode. Like, we're not talking spoilers or anything. Like, it's just kids playing D&D. It made me, because I had like literally the night before done my first campaign, and it made me realize how much I'd missed on as a kid. Like, because I'm 35, so my imagination is just atrophied at this point. Like, anytime I start thinking about like a mythical dragon, I just picture myself doing my taxes. It's the worst. And here are these like 4 kids that are just so into it. They're like falling down on the ground and yelling at each other. And I thought to myself, man, how did I miss out of this? Like, how did I miss out?
You imagine a realistic kind of D&D nowadays. It's like, you walk into the kitchen, and what do I see? It appears apparently the air conditioning could possibly on its way out, and you're like, damn, oh no, not the air conditioning. That's going to cost me a fortune. You hear a jingle at the door. There are some posts coming through the letterbox. One of them looks mysteriously like a tax bill. What do? It's like, oh damn, do I roll dexterity? Do I roll keeping my cool? Or do I just go to the drinks cabinet and pour myself a long one? That would be adult D&D.
Richard, you can't end every campaign by getting drunk by yourself in the bathroom. This is the 3rd campaign that's ended this way.
Exactly. If I want to cry in the bath, mess myself, I will.
You just created this bathroom cry.
It's a skill. I've got it rolled into every single campaign that we do. It's like, no, you can have dexterity, you can have strength, you can have the ability to communicate to animals. Drinking lots of gin and being sick in the stone toilet of Azragad does not count.
Oh, this is going to be a 4-hour podcast. I can already see. It's good that I'm like new, right? Because I don't have much to talk about. Like, Gary can probably talk about like 18 board games he's played yesterday, and I'm like, I've played 2.
No, that's fine. That's fine. As going into, explain what you're actually doing in D&D, because one of these things is everybody assumes when you say Dungeons and Dragons, it's like everybody assumes that everybody knows what the hell D&D is. So as somebody who's going through the process, how much playing have you done compared to how much building up a character? I mean, is it the trope that you do spend like the first 6 hours building up your character before you can do anything?
So let me give this some context, because that'll probably explain a little bit.
Let's do that.
And this actually involves Gary again, not just to mention him constantly throughout the episode, but Gary Butterfield ran a Kickstarter for his Souls of Darkness book. And one of the backing tiers on that was to whoever backed him at a certain amount could do a podcast of their choice with him. Yeah. And the guy that backed at that certain amount was a guy by the name of Brian Wade. And
we all know Brian.
And we all know Brian. Yeah, B. Wade is a really great guy. He's
people that don't know Brian. Brian has done a lot of stuff with. He's a regular in Bonfireside Chat, which is a podcast about Dark Souls. So
he's a big supporter of them, and he was on Don't Give Up Skeletons. You can go listen to his opinions. Actually, did something neat where he listened to, between the time we recorded and I released his episode, he listened to a bunch of episodes of people praising Bloodborne, went back, played Bloodborne, fell back in love with it. So I recorded an addendum with him so he can actually listen to a kind of a before and after. Anyway, so Brian told Gary, I want to do a one-off D&D campaign with you. And I want Jeremy Greer to be there. And I'm going to find a DM for us, and I want your friend Brayton Cameron, who is Gary's roommate and good friend. You may know him from the Pitch or the Teenage Dirtbags.
Yes.
So Brian found a DM in one Shane Kelly.
Okay.
Shane and his brother Reagan Kelly. God, I hope it's Kelly. Now I'm getting confused. They both run the. Yeah, we can correct it in post. This will all be fixed in post.
Notes, yeah, or we can go back and I can edit this.
Yeah. So
and just put a ridiculous accent on as well.
Shane McIntyre.
It's making pain making. It's making pain making all the way through, and it'd be beautiful. Anyway, you were saying.
So Shane and Reagan run the Short Game podcast, which is a really great podcast about specifically short games, like games you can finish in a couple of hours.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't realize this at the time, but Shane is apparently a very experienced DM. He runs a weekly game, and he hosts a game over Skype with some of his friends. Like, he's got a lot of experience doing this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the 5 of us, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Picked a date, which was pretty hard to do between like 4 different time zones.
Yeah.
Shane said, everybody, make your characters and submit them to me. So me and Brian got on Skype, and he kind of walked me through the character creation process. So that took us about an hour and a half over 2 sessions.
How did you find that? Because, I mean, obviously what you get is you get a whole pile of values, and it is things like dexterity and perception. And,
this stuff was so intimidating to me. Can I just tell you, like, seeing this stuff was just impossible. Shane linked us to this resource online that has like a PDF that you can fill in. Yeah. So like, you're typing in barbarian, and it kind of automatically populates the rest of your stats, and then you choose. I should go get my character sheet now that I'm thinking about it. But like, then you choose like your skills or whatever, and it recalculates stuff for you. So it just does the PDF sheet just did everything for us. And Brian like walked me through. Okay. Like, he kind of steered me towards being a barbarian, because my first instinct on all of this stuff when I play Dark Souls is to be like a sorcerer or a mage.
Oh my goodness.
And he said, like, magic is just way too complicated. Like, you're not going to have fun doing that, like, until you kind of learn the system a little bit. So he says, just be a barbarian. You can be my bodyguard. And that way, like, you'll have a kind of a mission, a raison d'etre. And you'll have like that'll be kind of your thing. So that's what we did, and he helped me run through that and made me a barbarian. We named him Axehole, which I think was a good name. Thank you, Murphy.
That's amazing.
He helped us name that. And yeah, one day we all jumped on Skype, and we like spent about 3.5 hours on it was just a one-shot campaign. So like, we didn't. Yeah. So like, we started our characters. Shane had all of this stuff kind of lined out, and we just did the thing. And I was very intimidated by it.
Did you? Because some people go for it. Now, one of the friends of the show that we have is a podcast called Magic and Steel, and they're currently running a Dungeons and Dragons kind of campaign themselves, and they do it in like 45-minute shots, and it's good fun, and it's a good thing to listen to, because it kind of, they're actually going through the story. But the reason that it comes across well as a podcast is because people really kind of get into it, and they're doing voices, and there's a bit of interplay and chat and stuff like that. So is that kind of how it was? Did you jump in with your full kind of acting chops, or
I was so like intimidated because immediately Shane started doing like crazy voices and like doing this whole thing, getting like really into it, and I just like couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm not much of a theater guy at all, despite spending some time at like the local theater project when I was a kid or a teenager. But like, I'm not a theater guy. Like, I don't do crazy accents. Like, this comes up on the X-Men podcast all the time, because I'm from Louisiana, so I should have like this real thick Cajun accent. But Gary does a better Gambit accent than I do, which is ridiculous. So yeah, people were doing that, and I was trying to get into it. Like, I would try to chime in every once in a while. But the great thing about that group is, number one, we weren't like, not one of us was like, oh no, you're not allowed to do that. 5th edition rules, chapter 47, page 233. Doesn't, like, nobody was doing that.
Yeah. You don't need, like, I mean, I think a good kind of DM will just let things flow, and we'll know when things are being serious, and we'll know when people are having a laugh, and and we'll jump in and let people kind of do what they do, and not try to be too much of a kind of a bit of a rule sergeant over it, saying you can't do this, you can't do that, especially in your first game. I mean, at the club, there's so many different rule sets going about. You've got like there's a Pathfinder rule set, there's like a Rune Quest rule set. There's so many different. There must be a new RPG kind of system out on Kickstarter at least every couple of months, which people are trying to put out there. But it comes down to the people, because there are in the local group that I'm going to, there is a guy who is fantastic at it. he just really, really inhabits what he does, and he's really, really he's really good at what he does and making people feel welcome and stuff like that as well. How did you work with it? How did you find the system? I mean, obviously you've been playing with people who were quite experienced. So how did you find kind of getting around the system? Did you find it easy? Was it a pain in the ass? Or
it wasn't. The way that everything kind of flowed, I wasn't the first person to react in a lot of times. So, when we get to a combat situation that for the first time, I'm kind of looking to the other guys to see what they do. And the part that was the most confusing is like, which die do I roll? Like, how do I calculate damage? Like, some of that stuff was really confusing, and I just didn't, because I haven't been doing it for 20 years. Like, I don't have that natural instinct. So, I would say things like, okay, I want to hit the wolf in the face. Or actually, the best one, and this is just a very brief story. The best one is this, I think it was like it might have been a wolf or an orc or something, and I wanted to run in from outside into this house and then dive and tackle this enemy so that I can hold him down so that because I was pretty dumb, but so my smart friends could interrogate it.
Oh, right.
And so I was saying that, like, and I kind of figured, like, okay, I'm on the right path here, and I rolled my dice and I failed miserably. Like, and of course Shane, the DM, is like, you run in, you dive, and you're 6 inches to the left and you crash into a wall.
Yeah.
And so, like, but they kind of helped me through all of, like, the technical stuff. And it wasn't, and then by the end of it, I was finally kind of getting a grasp on it. I think if I did it 2 or 3 more times, that stuff would become a lot more natural. So I didn't, like, once I did it, I was pretty comfortable doing it, but I still had to ask questions like, okay, now I'm in like fury mode or rage mode or berserker mode or whatever they call it. Like, so that gives me 3 turns because of this. And like, so does that take 2 of my turns now if I do that, or do I just still get, like, those kind of questions came out.
A lot of the systems, and I think what happened, especially with like some of the D&D systems, is they get to certain levels of additions. And then what happens is you can't just kind of punch somebody in the face. You punch somebody in the face, but you've got to work out, are you using the correct limb? Is it the stronger one? What's your aim like? What's your dexterity like? You know what I mean? What way is the wind blowing? Is it a good day? Are you okay in your mind at the moment for doing this type of thing? Or do you need to talk about it with somebody first before you punch the face off an orc?
Did you and your wife have a fight before you came to the adventure party tonight? Have you guys been trying to have children and it's not going well? Are finances okay? Like, is her father-in-law staying too long at the house? Like, is that what's happening? Like, you got some in-laws?
Did you walk into the kitchen and realize that the AC was possibly not going to be working and that you were probably going to end up drinking in your bath?
Well, I mean, I don't have to walk into the kitchen to realize that second thing. I just walk into the bathroom and the liquor's already there.
But I think what they've done recently is they've looked at that and said, okay, let's strip back a lot of the fluff that's gone in, because you can take a rule system so far before it becomes ridiculous, and then you're almost building up a wall for new players, because new players will come in and they'll look at a book and they'll realize that it's a book that's like, I mean, you've probably seen the rule books. They're a good 100-odd pages long.
Sure.
And it's table after table and stuff like that. So unless you know your way around it, you can end up kind of pretty lost. But there are plenty of kind of rule systems out. Me and Paddy, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago now, he was talking about on his episode a kind of an RPG to do with time control. So basically, you were investigating a scene. You were able to kind of like manipulate time, travel back in time in order to kind of make certain events kind of happen. So he was talking about that system. So that's something that would be quite interesting. The whole kind of role playing stuff has gone down so many different avenues now that there should be something that would suit everything. Mm-hmm. But obviously, the main thing for yourself is getting people together to be able to play, a game in a kind of a group. I mean, you sound like you had a good time.
Oh, I had a very good time. I enjoyed myself immensely. My wife said, because I kind of sequestered myself into a side room because I knew it was going to be like a 3 or 4 hour thing, so I didn't want to take up the living room so she couldn't watch TV or anything. And she said she kept hearing me like cackle from the other room because I was laughing so hard. Because I mean, if you can imagine, like Gary and Brian are both super funny. Shane is a super funny guy, and Brayton is a super funny guy. Like the 4 of those dudes and me, like cutting up with like orcs and wizards and stuff. Like it was just funny. Like we just had a really good time. And that's one thing that makes me hesitant to like seek out a group, because I've heard like you and Patty talking. I think you were saying that you had like a local group and that you could.
Yeah.
And I'm hesitant to do that because I'm so worried that it'll like the people there that will turn me off. And I know I should just commit, right? Like, because you can just go make friends. I'm an adult, grown man. But
my thing about going to local game group was quite simply I guess it was the whole thing about going out and just deciding I need to get myself a hobby where I'm kind of having more kind of interaction with other people, and not just maybe staring at a screen and speaking to people over a computer. I go on about this all the time about one of the reasons I really like board games is the social interaction, kind of face-to-face kind of interaction that you get. And for anyone that kind of has any doubts, if they see the advert for the local group, and the thing is that usually I've never seen, the group that I've gone to is like really, really welcoming. And they've got so many different games kind of going that, I think you'd be surprised.
Oh, I'm sure I would be. Yeah.
It's the Groucho Marx kind of thing. I wouldn't want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But
the Jeremy Greer fan club is just one guy being there ironically because he wanted a free t-shirt. That's all it exists.
I'd like to come on your Don't Give Up the Skeletons podcast. You ever played Dark Souls? I played the second one. You know that Lords of the Fallen one?
Oh,
that was
click. I gotta go. I'm moving.
That was real good. I just like the big armor on the shoulders, and some of the ways they did the spells.
Oh God, dude, you're killing me. That game.
It's okay. It's okay. You can talk. Lords of the Fallen is for people that are listening. You can Google it. It is one of Jeremy's favorite games, alongside the Assassin's Creed Syndicate series.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously,
you know me so well, Richard. I can't believe. Have you been following me? Like, are you stalking my gaming habits? Like, are you following me on PSN or something?
If you look out your window, the third tree to the right that looks slightly fat, that's me.
Oh, I have been meaning to put that tree on a diet. I wish I could see you behind it, but the tree is so fat.
Watch it.
Got to get you some fertilizer light, tree.
It's still not too late to go through and edit this, and just every 30 seconds you say, I don't really like Dark Souls.
That's fine. I don't even play Dark Souls. I just podcast about it all the time.
Exactly. You don't play about it anymore. I've never got over what they've done with the third one. But anyway. But
one thing you mentioned about like I'd be surprised about like the local group being accepting is I don't know if it's too soon to jump into like the next segment. I don't know if I'm taking away your podcast control or anything, but I have played a board game and I played it in public, which was an interesting experience.
Tell us about this, because one of the other things is this is the get it to the table section.
Okay.
So cool. If you've got it to the table,
we brought it to the bar. That's what we did.
If you got it out on the table, then you can get the board game and tell everybody about it. No, but you did mention another one that you had been playing as well.
But before we even get into the game itself, like we went to our local like hangout place where we know people and everything, and set this board game up of like cards and some dice and some other stuff. I think there was definitely dice, and I was just amazed at the people, like waiters and waitresses that we know pretty well because we're there every weekend, and like other regulars would come over and be like, "What's all this?" And we would explain it, and like they seemed very interested in it. Like they weren't. I just automatically expect people to be so judgmental about that stuff. Like, and I should get away from that. Like I should just say, okay, I'm going to go to the local comic shop that I know does Magic tournaments and probably other board games.
Oh no, don't do Magic.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I'm sure they do other stuff. Yeah.
No, the Magic people, they are a bit weird.
Yeah,
they like double. They like double. No, I'm only joking. Magic people, we love you, but you are weird. You like double and triple sleeve things.
You should get a bit of card. You should get B Wade on the podcast, and he loves Magic stuff.
I know, which is why I'm kind of like, I shouldn't be too nasty because I'm going to go up to Brian and say, Brian, do you fancy being on the podcast? Is no. I listened to your episode with Jeremy.
I know what you said.
I heard what you had to say about me and my brothers. Mate, you put like a plastic sleeve and a bit of cardboard, and then you put another plastic sleeve on top of that plastic sleeve to protect the plastic sleeve that's on top of the cardboard. I don't know what's with that. And do you hear that what Magic, what they've done now with the new Magic cards, traditionally they were all one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've done is they've introduced new cards which are double-sided.
Okay.
So the entire Magic sleeve industry is going, what?
What do we do?
What have you done?
How has nobody invented transparent cardboard?
Exactly.
We were sitting on our hands. There was a moment and we missed it.
It's the production meeting. So what are we going to do in the back of the card this year? Well, we could do some dragons.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be good. Let's do that. Let's roll that because we can't do anything.
Hey, how about this? We can put some land on it. That's like the only thing I know about Magic is some cards are land. I don't even know if that was a good joke, but like put some land on it.
Black Orchid as well.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I don't even know that.
Oh, there's a Black Orchid. Everybody knows about that, apparently. That's a really expensive card. But no,
okay.
No, I'm only joking about the Magic people because I know a few of them. And yeah, I mean, it's a good game that's captured an entire world by storm and it's got a lot of people into board games as well. But yeah, I mean, again, with the local kind of shops, a lot of them are doing kind of little nights and they'll also have demo nights and stuff like that. I mean, it's really weird because even like 10 years ago, well, no, okay. Go before that. There was, I remember at Dungeons, there was a D&D shop that opened, or a game shop that opened when I was in high school. It lasted about 18 months and then it closed down because there just wasn't any interest. And then nowadays they seem to be springing up proper tabletop cafes, they're called. Mm-hmm. And you can go in, you can get a cup of tea and a bagel and, or a crumpet or a pancake, whatever your bakery kind of thing is.
Tell me what else you can get at a bakery. Do they have cakes there? Your cookies are called biscuits, and I don't like that at all.
They might have donuts. Well, I don't care because I've got a wheat allergy, so the whole thing can just die in a fire.
So to you, it's not the Great British Bake Off; it's the worst British Bake Off.
It's like this is just like punching me in the face while I'm watching folk going, "Look at these lovely cakes that you can't ever eat."
Yeah, don't worry. I feel the same way. Like I look at them on TV making all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm like, I wish I could have that. Instead, I'm just going to have these nachos.
Look at you. You're just ruining bread. That's all you're doing. You think you're being clever, but you're just doing clever things with bread.
I wonder if it would taste good if I took this macaroni and cheese powder and put it on 2 pieces of bread and put that in the oven for 10 minutes. So yeah, before we get too off subject, I should embrace the local stuff more. I think I'm so nervous from even being a kid of anything being like a stigma of being a nerd.
Yeah.
But the game we brought to the bar was a board game called Marrying Mister Darcy. And shout outs to the Short Game Podcast. There's a lady on there whose name I am regretfully not remembering, Lauren something, who talked about playing this at one of her board game nights. And for a little history, my father-in-law over the last couple of years has developed this. I don't think it's a fetish because I'm pretty sure it's not sexual. So just this really deep interest in like the Jane Austen books, like not Sense and Sensibility, but Pride and Prejudice.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
he's popular. Yeah, popular one amongst
70-year-old white dudes in South Louisiana.
I mean, they've got an entire section.
The 70-year-old white dudes have a section, or Pride and Prejudice?
I think both is applicable.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
So he's consumed like all of the movies, and like every weekend we go out to eat and have a couple of beers, and he's like, did you see the 1942 version of da 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 da? And I'm like, Mark, you know I haven't. Like, it's not gonna happen.
If this is a conversation opener, we're gonna have to start again.
Yeah, we needed to. Yeah, you were in sales. I'm sure you didn't lead with Pride and Prejudice when you were in sales. Maybe you did.
Leader, I married him.
So we got this for him for Father's Day because he's read all the books, he's watched all the movies, and the lady on the short game was talking about how much fun it was. And the concept of the game, are you familiar with it, first off? Or do you know anything about it? No,
I'm not. So I'm as interested to hear about it as, you know.
So I don't know like what is unique to card games versus what is unique to just like this game. So if I step all over myself saying dumb stuff, please just leave.
Oh.
That was loud. Please just leave like hateful comments on Richard's blog. Just keep it on Richard's blog. Don't bring it to my Twitter, Richard's blog. So the crux of the game is everybody picks a what is the...
That was just your warning that you were doing something wrong.
Yeah, wow. It worked because now I've destroyed all of my words. Everybody picks a lady. And the goal of the game is to marry your most eligible husband. So each lady has a certain amount of charisma, has a certain amount of beauty, has a certain amount of intelligence. Yeah. And they have a certain bachelors out of the deck, of which there's like, there's 8 or 9 ladies and there's 8 or 9 bachelor dudes, all from the books, from what I understand.
All right, okay.
And you pick your lady, and the card tells you like, hey, you have this many points in this, and if you look on the back, you have like your preferred dude. So like if you marry Mr. Darcy, that could be 15 points, where if you married, I don't remember any of the names for this game, so forgive me, guys. I'm sorry if I'm offending any Jane Austen fans out there.
No,
again,
that'll be fine.
Richard's blog.
I'm not sure how many We're Not Wizard people are completely into Pride and Prejudice. There's probably about 5 that we'll get some really, really angry messages from.
That's great, man. I want some Jane Austen hate mail. That'd be great.
You get this damn American chap.
Get this
podcast.
idiot insulting our culture.
Doesn't even know his literature. Probably can't even say the word literature.
Not like that, I can't. So that all on the back of on a lady's card will have like a scale of that this is your top dude that you can marry for marriage points, and this is your bottom dude for the least amount of marriage points. Mm-hmm. The idea is you progress through the game taking turns, drawing a card. Cards can be events, so it can be stuff like your sister-in-law talks shit about you behind your back, so lose 3 charisma. It doesn't. It doesn't say that. All of this is in the language of the game, so it's like
you can imagine it doesn't drop the S bomb.
Sorry. Hopefully, this is a rated M podcast. I'll dial that down.
No,
it'll say, Lady Mary's sister talked about her to Mr. Darcy, so she's got to lose 2 charisma points.
Yeah.
Or it could be things like Mr. Darcy had a spontaneous family member die, so he's going to be he's not even available in this for the rest of this. So unless you meet these certain requirements, he won't be available till the end of the game. So you have to make the choice of, well, do I pursue my second most marriage points guy, or do I still want to go for Mr. Darcy, who's my first? And you take turns, and everybody takes turns drawing cards and kind of doing whatever the card says. Some cards will give you bonus points to your charisma. Some cards will force other players to lose, beauty points or lose charisma points or intelligence points or what have you. And then once you run out of the deck to draw from, everybody kind of tallies up. It becomes, at that point, you get into the marriage stage, and that is where you start seeing who the eligible bachelors are, because some of them with these event cards could have disappeared, or some of them like you could have gotten knocked up by one of them. So you have to marry this guy.
All right, cool.
There's also a way to win if you're just if you don't get married. So like if you collect enough intelligence or charisma or what have you to just stay single, to be like the spinster, you can you can win it that way. And this game, and again, I don't really have much affinity for Jane Austen besides like, I can appreciate it from an outside point of view, but it's not like it's filling out my bookshelves. But the way the cards are written is just delightful. Like, it's very funny. It's very cute. I wasn't familiar with the source material. My father-in-law was very familiar with it, and he said like it all fit very well within like the canon of the Jane Austen verse.
See, that's the thing. See, sometimes the theme of a game doesn't always matter. It's the fact that the mechanics kind of they tie together so well with the theme that if you're not necessarily interested in the theme, you kind of become interested in the theme.
Mm-hmm.
One of the games that we spoke about a while ago was Pax Porforiana, which is about the Mexican Revolution. So the mechanics itself and the cards themselves had so much detailed information that while you were actually playing it, you ended up kind of getting so involved in the story and the history that you learned an awful lot about the kind of the Mexican history as well, which was kind of really, really kind of cool. So how long does a game normally take then?
So the game suggested since we were playing like with 3 players to half the deck, and then but we found like it was just not enough stuff to do. Like it just wasn't like so we ended up playing the full deck, and I think it took us right at an hour.
All right.
Yeah, so it went pretty quick. Like we had maybe 2 beers during because we're big drinkers, so we can knock those pint glasses back pretty quick. And then and like I said, like during the time, like the guy that was waiting on us would come up to like drop off a beer, and he'd be like, "So, like, who's got the best hubby?" Like that kind of thing. And like other people would come up and be like, "What is this?" And yeah, apparently at some point, like I don't know, we were suggesting it for like the staff to do it there because they do a game night. That sounds mostly like it's Cards Against Humanities and things like that. So,
oh, right.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
you need to kind of get into there and break the back off that.
Well, the issue with that is it's a bunch of like 20-something, like early 20-something waiters and waitresses. So like, I'm not going to go to somebody's house at 2:00 in the morning. Like, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. I don't even have kids, and that's not going to happen. I just have like old man disease or whatever it's called.
You just like turn up and people would go, "What?
Yeah, who are you?
Did anyone order a pizza?"
I don't know that I've told this story on a podcast before, but a couple weekends back, I went to Austin to see Gary and Cole's live podcast. And Friday night, there's another guy on Slack, account 404, this guy named Sean. We met up with him and his girlfriend at this bar. It was right by her workplace and all this stuff. And we're walking in, and Autumn and I get there first. Autumn is my wife, and Autumn we don't normally go to quote unquote bars. Like we go to like restaurants that have a bar or like places that we know. Like we very rarely we're going to like a club, right?
Yeah.
So I'm totally unprepared when this dude asks me for my ID. Like I just totally unprepared. I'm just used to people knowing me, I guess, which is a very like self-centered thing to say. But Autumn is totally Johnny on the spot or Jane on the spot. Pops out the ID, no problem. He waves her in. Yeah. I'm scrambling. I've got this tiny little wallet, and it's just, it's like it's in there somewhere. I know it is, but I can't find it. And the guy looks at me and goes, "Dude, go ahead, go in. You've got gray in your hair." And I was like, "What? That's not, I'm going to find my ID, damn it. I don't want to get in for that reason." Anyway, that's a total non sequitur. I'm sorry.
That's where you get like kind of, you get to the point where you're like, "I would like to be asked for my ID."
Exactly.
So it sounds like you had fun. I did. Marrying Mister Darcy.
And I will say, like, I would, like, after I finished it, I mentioned that we bought it for my father-in-law to have because he's got a lot of friends in his apartment complex, and I thought that might be something fun for him to do. But now I'm like, shit, I should have bought that for me. Like, I really like now I kind of want a copy of it at the house, and I want to play more card games like that. Like, that was a lot of fun.
I mean, there's games out there that can be kind of good fun for a couple of players. I mean, you've got the old kind of standard. I mean, there's obviously standard games that people talk about. There's one like this, like Love Letter, which people talk about, which can be. I mean, it can be fun with 2 players. I mean, ideally, it wants a little more, but it's a little more. But it's a simple kind of, it's very, very simple kind of mechanical kind of card game where you try to avoid. Basically getting rid of the princess. You're essentially trying to be you try to knock other people out based on the kind of the mechanics that are used on each of the kind of the cards, and that's a pretty good game. You've also got Hive as well, which is a kind of a cross between kind of like chess It's very like chess. You get kind of like it's almost like little hexagonal tiles, and each of them have like an insect on them, or a spider in one of the cases. And based on the tile that you put the tiles down, and then the tiles have kind of like different moves. So, for instance, like say an ant can move anywhere around any of the tiles on the ground. So these tiles basically form almost like the board themselves. So you put down all the tiles, yeah. And then once all the tiles are down, you can then decide what you're going to do movement-wise with the individual tiles. So the ants can move all the way around the tiles that you've laid down. The spiders can move like 3 spaces and that's it. You've got a queen bee, which in order to win, you've got to surround the opponent's queen bee with all of your either all of yours or all of your opponent's kind of insects, so the queen bee has no place to kind of move. There's kind of little stag beetles that can jump up on top of tiles, then jump back down again. And that's a kind of a really good game between 2 players because it's one of these things it takes maybe an hour or 2 to learn, but actually going on to kind of master it kind of going forward does take an awful long time for you to kind of do that. So, I mean, I'd recommend that. You've got the kind of the old favourites. I mean, you have got things like Carcassonne, which again is all about kind of like a land grab. You put your tiles down, and then based on where you're going, you put kind of like your meeples down as well. And based on where you put your kind of your meeples, your little wooden meeples, you can put down kind of little. You get additional points for kind of being in control of the land, and that can be kind of good fun as well.
I played that on the 360 because they did a they did like a Xbox Arcade version of that. So I've played. I played that for a good bit actually. But I was just playing against the computer, and I never was particularly good at it. But I imagine like playing that with my wife or like a couple of people at a table would be a lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean that's good fun. I mean Hive's good as a little kind of 2-player game, and Love Letter would probably also. I mean Love Letter would be a good game. These are all kind of relatively kind of light games. I mean, I guess the danger with bringing out, say, a big, huge kind of board game is people get intimidated because you have to spend kind of 45 minutes kind of explaining the rules. You get there's older classic games that have come out. I mean, one of the games I was playing today with the kids was kind of Escape from Atlantis.
Okay.
Now, that was a game that was out years and years ago. I don't know if it was Milton Bradley. I think it was maybe Milton Bradley. And the idea is you get tiles which are, again, hexagonal tiles which are slightly different kind of heights, and you lay them out to form an island, and then you have little guys on the island. And the idea is you get them off this crumbling island and you put them to the safety of little kind of beaches in the corner of the board.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this. I can't remember why I've heard of this. This sounds I remember thinking I need to look into that. Of course I never did. So
no, I mean that's and it's a very, very simple game. You get 3 moves. You then remove a bit of the island that's there, and what that does is that either reveals a whale or a shark, or it reveals a whale or a shark or a boat or a whirlpool. And the idea is each of your little meeple guys has a little value on the bottom of them, and depending on when you get all your guys to shore, at the end of the game, when you flip over one of the last kind of tiles and it has like a volcanic eruption, that means the game ends, and it means that everybody kind of tots up their total score, and that's how you win it. And that's again kind of, I guess, a light game. So you can kind of, it's about, there are kind of like, you could play that kind of quite easily, kind of 2-player. I guess what you would probably want to do is you could bring in, you could bring in kind of like, use more than just one set of players. So people get like 2 or 3 turns at a go.
If you want to see. So you can you'll be like Patty was talking about on his episode. He was playing that game, whatever that game was, solo, like where he was controlling 2 different decks, I think, at the same time. Yeah.
So that's what you would do. You would control like almost like you would decide, I'm going to play as green and blue, and you're going to play as yellow and red, and it would give like obviously kind of more options to play and stuff. So there are quite a few games. It's getting the balance of getting a game, you can't, well, I guess there's more involved games. I mean, in terms of gateway stuff, there are kind of slightly more involved games which are still thoroughly enjoyable. A couple of episodes ago, we talked about Letters from Whitechapel. Yeah.
Okay.
And Letters from Whitechapel is basically the police against Jack the Ripper. Now, we played that with 4 players and we had an absolute blast, but you could quite easily have one person playing Jack the Ripper and the other person playing the police force. And that would kind of work quite well, and it's quite easy to have people kind of dropping in and out. And
I like that a lot. Like if one person trying to chase the other one. Like we don't do much competitive stuff. Like when we play games, we want to kind of play co-op stuff. But that sounds really, really cool. Like that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, because obviously everybody's trying to work towards kind of like the common good, whereas obviously Jack the Ripper's trying to get away with murder. There are more involved games. I mean, there's more kind of simplistic games. One of the games I'm a big fan of is, and we're going to cover it eventually in one of the episodes that me and Colin do, is Mice and Mystics. And Mice and Mystics is, you remember things like Hero Quest?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, imagine Hero Quest, but the kind of the heroes in it are little mice. And the bad guys that you're facing off are little like spiders and rats and things like that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if you had that kind of level of dungeon crawler, but the artwork in it is fantastic, and there's a kind of a very, very well, beautifully illustrated and beautifully told story kind of all the way through. And it's very, very gentle, but it can also be quite tough once you get so far kind of like into the game and into the level as well. So that's also kind of like a game that could be worthwhile kind of picking up for. In terms of cost-wise, I mean, Love Letter, Hive, even probably Carcassonne you can pick up. They're not going to cost an awful lot of money. I know that mice, things like Letters from Whitechapel are probably going to be about the best part of maybe $40.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going Mice and Mystics get slightly more kind of expensive. But these are all kind of good games that are kind of like, I would say they're kind of very, very kind of decent kind of entry games that 2 people can sit around, play, and have a decent fun. But it can still be easy enough so that if you do get somebody that's coming in that hasn't been playing board games an awful lot, that they can jump in, and if they've got a bit of guidance, they could definitely kind of join in. That letters from Whitechapel would probably be a good. Funnily enough, it'd probably be a good one, to take down the pub, because you would definitely get kind of people into.
How long does it? Like, how long would a normal game last? If like one person was playing the police, or
we managed to get through it in about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, so yeah, because we usually spend like maybe about 3.5 hours, like hanging out, like having beers at our local place. So like that's perfect. Like that'd be like not the whole time, but like just like we could start the day with that, and then not just like
get your stuff like that. Get a couple of people in. You can make it as long as you want. It depends how many people are actually kind of getting involved, but it could be something that you could even say, okay, we're gonna have a murder mystery night. kind of thing. Oh, what we're going to do? Well, we're just going to play Letters from Whitechapel because it's good fun, and you can take it from there, because if you haven't listened to for listeners out there, if you haven't listened to the episode, why not? But if you haven't,
what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Go listen to them.
Don't threaten them. Let's not scare them off. We like our 5 listeners. We wouldn't want them to go down to 4 for any reason whatsoever. But no, I mean, that was, if that's kind of what you're looking for. But there's so many different board games. You get some really, really kind of light ones you can get into. There's obviously the heavier ones that we talk about. We talk about like Scythe, which is a really new game that's come out. We talked about Catacombs as well, which is like a dexterity game.
Mm-hmm.
Flick 'em up, if you like kind of dexterity games. That's like a pub game. If you were looking for maybe something very, very simple you could kind of take into the pub as well, there's a game I believe called Skulls and Roses, which...
I don't know. It's really tweaking my Guns N' Roses bone for some reason. I was like, yep, I immediately like it.
Yep, you could be mine. But yeah, I mean, that's another one. It's a very, very simple card game where some people have skulls, some people have roses. I've not played it myself, but from what I've heard, it's good fun, and it's also very, very cheap, inexpensive. Nothing is cheap, but yeah, it's inexpensive to kind of pick up as well. So yeah, I mean, I would suggest if you're looking for kind of stuff to, I guess, suggest get off the shelf at the local shop, then that would be definitely worthwhile. I mean, is there anything that you've maybe seen that you thought, that might be good, or are you kind of you've kind of landed on the island of board gaming and you're kind of like doing the Tom Hanks and Castaway. You're just trying to figure out where Wilson is.
The first thing I did was pick up a volleyball and make it my friend. And now I'm looking for board games that I can play with me in the volleyball, where I pretend to be the volleyball. And yeah, so it's gonna be a weird movie, is what I'm saying. The sequel to Castaway. It's Castaway 2, starring Jeremy Greer and Matt Damon as the volleyball, which is weird. You wouldn't expect.
I would just wonder how if he could stretch to acting like that.
Oh,
he could possibly. Can you imagine that's Oscar material?
He does have a very kickable face, so I will assume yes. Oh no, wait, volleyball. You don't use your feet on volleyballs. Oh shit! I should have said a soccer ball. Oh no, I messed up the goof.
That's all. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's fine.
Yeah, those are all great suggestions. I really appreciate that. I looked up Escape from Atlantis while we were sitting here, and it's like $35 on Amazon, and I can get it like tomorrow. So I'll send it to the wife to see if she kind of digs the theme, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a laugh. I think, Hive, if she likes something a little bit more intellectual, then Hive's really good because it is chess, but it's not kind of chess, and it's really tactical, and my kids absolutely love it. But my kids are getting to the point where they can easily beat me on it. And at the beginning when you're playing a game, you're like, okay, I'll kind of let them have that move.
yeah, absolutely.
And then you get to the point where you're like, actually, I'm really having to think about this because they go like this. They go, I'm just going to put down my ant here. And they go, that's fine. I'm putting this spider here. I'm moving it 3 spaces. I've just absolutely destroyed you. And you're just like,
what? Damn. When did you get smart? And how?
You're not even in high school yet. What's wrong with you?
But to answer your question, no, I haven't really seen anything. Like I've been listening to back episodes of this interesting podcast that I know called We're Not Wizards to get some ideas. I fast forward through most of it, but it's all right.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm kind of lurking in the tabletop room on the Duck Feed Slack to get kind of suggestions, and then just kind of poking around and see, like, every once in a while, like, I'll send something to the wife and be like, hey, does this pique your interest? And if she's kind of interested, like, as soon as because I can tell, like, I can tell if she's interested, and I'll just order it, and one day she'll come home and I'll have it like set up and like, okay, here's a glass of wine. Like, you have no excuse. Let's do the thing.
Candles and roses and a trail of roses.
Wait, hold on. That's only when we're drinking in the bathroom. That's a totally different situation. That's only for passing out on the bathroom floor. That's the roses and stuff. I'm assuming for board games you need a brightly lit room and you need to be naked. So with a video camera going, that's
how we record the podcast.
Turn off the Skype camera.
It's okay. I put a t-shirt on for you specially.
I wish it wasn't a t-shirt of another guy naked, though, that I can only assume is Colin. Like, where did you even get that t-shirt?
My birthday. He said it's going out and it's a birthday suit. So there you go.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things that we talk about is kind of give them a kick. Now,
sure.
There is obviously, let's get this out in the open. You're a big Dark Souls fan. I mean, if I know we jest about Lords of the Fallen and other things like that, and how obviously, Dark Souls has aged terribly and it's janky frame rate and it's really not worth looking at anymore.
See?
I don't think it deserves a remaster. I'm just putting that.
You're killing me. Yeah, I'm a big Dark Souls fan, and when the board game Kickstarter was announced, man, I had here's the thing with me is I knew I could cancel it. So the very first thing I did was backed it, because looking at the way that it was structured, I was like, okay, I want to be in on the ground floor of this. Like, if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in hard. I just didn't know if I wanted to stay in. Like, so I went in, and I think it was like £80, which is basically moon money to me. So I don't even know how much American dollars that was. I just told my wife it was not a lot.
At the moment, in terms of the exchange rate, it's going to be about $105 or something.
Okay. And then as I watched it, like, and I wasn't really in it for the board game. Like, I watched the video of them kind of showing the game off, and I was like, okay, well, that's interesting and cool. Like, it's not really my thing, but like, okay, sure, I could maybe see trying that out. I like the fact that you could play it solo, because I figured I'm going to get this thing. At the very least, I should play it once, but there's going to be nobody I know in real life that's going to want to play this thing. And then
I was just shifting uncomfortably in my seat there, just imagining you kind of going, okay, and there's a graping dragon, and the graping dragon's coming up to you, and he's saying like that, he's gonna smash you in his little face. Oh no, not the graping dragon! Leave me alone, graping dragon! Oh no, and look, he's gonna summon somebody. Oh look, who's he summoning? Oh look, he's summoning
Captain America! Bam, 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 bam!
I was gonna say Lautrec, but obviously, because I know the summon in the depths, but
I was just picturing like a kid like just mashing his action figures together. Like, he's got the big Tupperware, the plastic bin of action figures, and he's like, and Captain America is gonna fight He-Man, and they're gonna I don't even know where this soldier is from. Why is he from World War II? We shouldn't be glorifying those kind of wars. Why do I have this toy, Mom? I was a very introspective child. But yeah, I was into it. Like, the figurines are what brought me into it. Like, the gaping dragon thing was huge, and like all of the figures looked super cool. And so I was like, okay, well, $100, like, I will buy this and I will arrange it artfully on a shelf one day, and I will be totally happy. And if I ever come across somebody who's good at painting figurines, I will pay them to do so. And that would
there's no doubt with all the what happens with these things is there will be somebody that has bought 10 of these, and then you're going to see about 6 months after they get released that they will be basically selling the Dark Souls.
Why didn't I think of that? I could have just waited
for about probably about $500-$600.
Oh well, I'm not gonna. The campaign that's gonna be worth it. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, the campaign was an out-and-out success. What interested me about the Dark Souls kind of board game was how they were going to get the mechanics across, because traditionally in any type of dungeon type game, you've got movement points, and then once you do a movement, you do an action, or you do an action, then you do a movement, and a movement obviously consists of you moving around the board. The action will consist of you throwing a spell, or healing, or using an item, or attacking somebody. And as you know, with the Dark Souls thing, I was reading, I actually kind of knowing I was going to speak to you, I went back and I revisited what the mechanics were. And what they're doing is they're doing a very, very kind of interesting mechanic between stamina and hit points. Mm-hmm. So that you'll have your stamina and your hit points are all in one track, which is really, really unusual. So basically, if you'll have the guys you're facing in the dungeon, yeah? So if you're up against, say, the Dancer of Boreal Valley, that figurine will be placed in there. It'll be shuffled in its own behavior deck. So this is where the single player element comes in. You'll be able to control the Dancer of the Boreal Valley by playing cards. So you'll flip a card and it'll say, okay, it uses this attack. And what they do is they actually sector off the figurine into like a north, south, east, and west. Okay? Mm-hmm. And then what it'll do is it'll say, okay, it's going to use its double sword attack, and it's just going to do that right to the north. So if you're happen to be in its north area, you're potentially going to suffer kind of damage. Yeah.
Okay.
However, obviously, because it's attacking in the north, it means that its south, it's basically its butt, is prone for you to get a hit in. Mm-hmm. So if it's not saying, okay, I'm going to use this attack and I'm going to attack the person straight on. It's saying, I'm attacking in this direction using this attack. If people are in their way, they're going to be in trouble. If people are behind me, that means that they can get an attack in. Now, you could go in and you can decide to do, say, 2 smacks with your sword, which, as you know, in Dark Souls, kind of might drain your stamina bar depending on where you're going. What it does in the board game, as far as I'm aware, is that it adds points to your stamina bar. And on the opposite side of the track, if you've got wounds, as you get hit, your wounds kind of increase. So if they meet in the middle, as in if you use too much stamina,
okay,
and you have enough wounds, then that basically your entire bar is filled up, and that means you're killed, you're dead. So at the beginning of every move, you automatically kind of you've got the ability to remove a certain amount of stamina, so you've obviously got enough moves to kind of keep you going. It also means that if you've attacked 3 or 4 times in a row, then your stamina could be so high that you maybe have to, like you do in Dark Souls, you have to back off for a bit and maybe back off for a bit away from where the attack could be. Mm-hmm. So they're really trying to embrace how the attack system would work. Obviously, there still involves dice, so there's a bit of a chance. They've brought in, and you've got the AI deck as well, which means that the dancer could decide to do a 360-degree attack. It won't be obviously as strong as it doing it kind of straight on, but it'll probably take out kind of like a bit of a damage. They've also introduced kind of treasure as well. They've got the treasure chest in there. They've pretty much got most of the things that you would expect from Dark Souls. I guess the only thing they seem to be missing is the kind of the moving between the different rooms, as in you actually doing the kind of, guess, the journey. You know, you're kind of facing up against the boss door, so you're up against like a kind of a mid-level boss as well as a high-level boss, and that's where it kind of looks. I'm interested to see where they go with this. I'm interested to see the logistics side of things, because that's the only thing I think that could make things kind of sour. I know that they've gone a bit quiet on the radar. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing because they're working up to the pledge manager, because obviously they took, was it about $3 million.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, it was just a massive amount of money for what. And I'm sure they didn't expect that. Like, I'm sure they expected it to be big, but there's a certain amount of fear. Like, I can only imagine being in their shoes and thinking, okay, like, we're going to release this Dark Souls thing. It's going to be pretty complicated. We'll probably raise $500,000 and we're going to make it, and we're going to do the best we can. And then all of a sudden you're sitting on 8 times that or 6 times that, and then you're like, oh shit, now we have to make it really good.
I know. You have to take, as I think we said a while, you have to take all the post-it notes down off of the planning board and pretty much use them, which I think they've actually ended up with guys like Lautrec, and they've ended up I mean, you've got your roster of characters. You've got Sigmar, pretty much everybody from the original Dark Souls game, and even I think Dark Souls 2 is turning up. I think Lucatiel has turned up. Mm-hmm. I know that Solaris turned up as well.
Some of the NPC, from Dark Souls 2, noted NPC Solaire. They've also got some like NPC invaders. I saw like some of the weird ones that got introduced from Scholar of the First Sin. So they got some like a collection of characters in there that I'm really interested in. Like, that stuff looks really good.
I'm interested to see they've got a pledge manager that will open up, and basically for those who generally in a Kickstarter phase, yes, you have your original Kickstarter phase, but after the Kickstarter phase is finished, usually within a couple of months of the Kickstarter finishing, there'll be like a pledge manager that will open up. Now, the pledge manager does 2 things. It allows you to confirm your shipping address and maybe even change payment details, but it also allows you to purchase kind of additional components. And this has become quite popular thing amongst some of the bigger bigger companies, that they kind of like have additional kind of items that you can buy. Now, the good thing about the Dark Souls Kickstarter is they could have done this so many ways that would have left a bitter taste in people's mouths. And one of them was to bring out Kickstarter exclusives. Mm-hmm.
They were very upfront from the very beginning, saying like, we don't want any of this stuff to be exclusive. We want people to be able to buy this stuff.
It'll be in the retail stores. You can get a hold of this. This is going to be in the retail stores. You can have this, and it's a kind of it's a testament to them that the fact that they're gonna they're gonna open up a pledge manager to basically you can go in and you can buy calamite, I think.
Yeah. I wasn't into the calamite statue so much, but man, the Dark Root expansion is the one that I actually ponied up for ahead of time. Like when they introduced that, I was like, oh wow, there's tiny mushroom men in here. I have to have this. Like there are tiny
just
mushroom
the ones
men.
that punch so hard.
Have you seen and every year I always say that it's WonderCon, but I might be wrong, but it's some weird convention, and every year there are these tiny little Dark Souls figures that show up, and they're freaking adorable. Like there's tiny little mushroom men, there's like chibi little Petrus, there's like chibi, onion bro. Like they're just absolutely adorable, and they're never for sale on the internet. They're only for sale at this one convention that I think is in like Mars or something. Like it's nowhere near me.
The end of middle, the end of it's in the middle of Mordor.
Yeah, exactly. You can only get there via Eagle and cars. Like that's the only way to get there.
Oh, I heard something recently about an RPG game about them how they got around a campaign which was very, very similar to Lord of the Rings. And they've kind of, just as a quick aside, they got the treasure and they beat the bad guy and they said, okay, now let's go and do the journey back. And they went, nah, we're not going to do that.
We're good. We're just going to chill
We're
here.
good. We're just going to do it just like that. Taxi for Hogmeister.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think they pretty much used magic to travel back to where they would. Saved themselves about 6 weeks of a campaign, and
good. Yeah, we're done. We're just going to put up a shop, and we're good. But I really liked the Dark Root stuff. I think that was the only expansion I bought though, because I think there was the Black Dragon one, which I didn't particularly feel like that represented Calamite very well. And then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, I don't think that. Like I like that fight, but I don't particularly have any kind of love for Calamite. Like, I mean, if it's going to be anything, like if there's my favorite Drake in Dark Souls, it'll probably be the Hellkite Drake, because like that dude's So,
with his removable little Drake sword tail.
Sure, yeah, that'd be oh my god, that'd be perfect. You take off the tail and you just like pull the Drake sword out of a slot from its butt, and then you can just put the tail back on.
Absolutely awesome.
Oh yes, fantastic.
But yeah, I think what they're going to do is they're going to get another big boost of funding when it comes to the I think when it comes to this pledge manager, because people will be able to go in and buy. So I think if you wanted the full set, now we did the maths and it was about £300. It was going to be about $400 in total to buy everything. So you can imagine this is Dark Souls, and this is potentially, there will be people that will say, well, I want to get it now because I can't guarantee that maybe I'll be able to get it another time. Mm-hmm. You imagine the amount of additional money they're going to make when they open up the pledge manager as well. It's going to be pretty decent. So we'll just have to see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's that we'll see how that'll right out. I mean, I think the next thing they have to look at is obviously the logistics side of things, and see how that kind of works out for them as well. It'll be interesting because that is one of the things that might let down the Kickstarter afterwards. Isn't necessarily the game itself, but also how they deliver that. So it'll be interesting. We'll keep an eye, and if there's anything that comes up, then we'll keep an eye on that as well. Mm-hmm. So it should be good. Anyway, obviously, one of the last things we do is we do the kind of the shout out section of the show. So, well, first of all, I mean, obviously, thanks for spending so long talking to me. Where can we find you? I mean, you mentioned very quickly, kind of don't give up skeleton. If you want to touch on that quickly.
Sure.
And then obviously we can talk about like where people can actually find you on the interwebs.
Okay.
Okay.
So the best place, if you just want to chat on the internet, the best place to do that is on Twitter, and I'm at JG Greer, JGGREER. Just send me a message. I try to respond pretty quickly. Sometimes I don't, but yeah, I love talking to people on Twitter. So feel free to message me there. I'm a part of 2 podcasts. One of which is called Don't Give Up Skeleton. That's a very Dark Souls focused podcast. The idea is to interview people about their start and kind of stories within the Dark Souls series or the From Software series.
Yes.
My original idea was to find people who were a part of the community, but not necessarily a active or a contributor to the community. So in other words, like there's a ton of people making YouTube videos. There's a ton of people making podcasts. I kind of wanted to find people that didn't do either and hear what they have to say. And then I proceeded to fill up like the first 10 episodes with YouTube personalities and podcast people and Dark Souls celebrities. Although it's like within those 10 episodes, I think about there's two ladies that I interviewed. One is Emily B and one is Catherine. I think Catherine was like the 4th or 5th episode. Both of those people they've contributed in their own way, but like they're not quote unquote famous in the community, and they don't shout into a microphone once a week like I do. So their perspective on the series was super interesting.
They're fascinating because it's almost like having say 10 people looking on something and giving their own kind of eyewitness account of what they saw. So you get everything from a technical kind of take on something like, say, the Illusory Wall episode.
Oh yeah.
To then say like one with like say what you did was it Joshua? Josh Crow, Morbid Beard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who hadn't been that long into the series and had basically discovered Dark Souls in the Bloodborne area of things, and I think he'd gone back to it. So there's interesting stories from different people that were in at the very, very beginning all the way through to people that have just got into it and then kind of played back. What I like about what you've done with Don't Give Up Skeleton is the fact that every episode is kind of like independent as well. So you can jump between episodes quite easily and you're never feeling you're kind of losing anything. They're kind of like self-contained, which is obviously kind of very, very attractive. So if you haven't listened to it, if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to it, and just the humanity side of it, using a Dark Souls pun, is very, very kind of interesting, because usually there's a very, very good story behind why people are playing it as well. There's some very, very kind of touching stuff. And Paddy Stardust, who was on this show not too long ago, he's got an episode himself, and it's a very, very interesting listen. So I would definitely.
Paddy was so much fun to talk to. Like him and his podcasting partner CJ are both just a delight to have just a conversation with. Yeah, they're also notably the longest episodes. When I came up with this idea, I thought like, okay, a quick 30-minute podcast. I can record a bunch of these. I can release 2 a week. And it'll be like on a Tuesdays and Thursdays, you'll have 30 minutes to listen to the stories, and it's just not enough time. Very quickly learned it was just not enough time. So they go to about 45 minutes. I try to keep them below 50, but a lot of times I'm getting into that hour range.
No, it's just easy when it's just how these things happen. The other thing that you're involved in is Dark Insight.
Absolutely, Dark Insight is a podcast that was started by Clifford Goldsmith, aka Death Note. He was listening to Twin Humanities and listening to Bloodborne. Geez, he started playing Bloodborne, which is his first Souls game, and that kind of inspired him to find the community we have on Twitter. I heard his name via Twin Humanities, CJ and Patty's podcast. He was writing in emails that caused me to look him up on Twitter. Me and him got to talking, and at some point he said, "Well, I'm going to start a podcast of my own," and released a 30-minute thing where he's talking into a microphone, and I listened to that and enjoyed it. He quickly after that partnered up with a guy named Vader. Excuse me. And they started podcasting together, because the only thing that's better than one white man's opinion is two white man opinions. So
as we know.
So they started doing it on a every other weekly basis. At some point they invited me to be on the episode, as a guest, because they were kind of looking for guests. And then around episode 13, they said, hey, we really want a third person, because the only thing better than two white men opinions are three white men opinions. So and I think what kicked that off is we had done a Dark Souls 3 special that had very, very good, it was very, very successful. Me, Vader, and this guy named Sean, aka the Lore Hunter.
Lore Hunter, yeah.
Had all played the beta for Dark Souls 3, or the network test, excuse me. And so we did like a 3-hour podcast about this network test, which is just not even the whole of the first area of Dark Souls 3. Just a part of it. And that went over very well. Like, I thought it was a really good podcast. We had a good time with it. And then they said, hey, why don't you come do this on a regular basis? And I said, okay, let's do it. So now Vader, and Cliff host it. And yeah.
And we talk about it. I mean, we do regularly give you guys shout outs as well.
You do, and I really appreciate that.
No, well, you were
on Dark Insight, we should say, just a couple episodes ago.
22, as I said.
22, yeah. I don't know.
22.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you what episode we're on now.
Download that. That's the best one.
It is, absolutely.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best ones.
What did you call yourself? You said you didn't say Death Note. Like you made some pun that was just amazing. Sick Note, was that what it is? Yes, absolutely.
Because Clifford wasn't well. Call myself Sick Note.
Sick Note. And then the last thing you can find me on is Dark Souls Haters. If you are interested in the PvP side of Dark Souls and you've ever been sent a mean message, you should go to darksoulshaters.tumblr.com, and all of the information on how to get those mean messages to me is there, and you can send them to me and I will post it. And you should look at the absolute filth that is Dark Souls Haters. So
thank you. It's like staring into your soul. But no, listen, thank you very much for joining.
No. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate you. This was a long recording session, and it's all my fault. So thank you very much for staying with me.
No, they won't notice that, because we'll edit it out. We'll edit it out, and it'll be hello, and then it'll be bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Shortest podcast ever.
Again, just to say, if you want to stay in tune with what we're doing, you can catch us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/We're Not Wizards. You can catch us on Twitter @We're Not Wizards. You can catch us on Instagram /We're Not Wizards. You can catch us on Stitcher and Acast and iTunes, which I can never remember their address because iTunes are not very good at doing search engine friendly URLs for the podcasts, because that's Apple for you. Again, just Jeremy, this was kind of it was all kind of organised a bit short notice, so I appreciate you jumping in this evening, and I've had a lot of fun.
I have too. This has been an absolute blast.
This has been, and we managed to talk about board games as well, and still managed to talk about Dark Souls, so it's all good. But just remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Not wizards, Jeremy. What are we not?
We're not wizards.
Not wizards.
I love that tagline. That tagline is excellent. I wish I had a good tagline for mine. So,
just don't give up.
I don't know why I don't say "Don't Give Up Skeleton" at the end of "Don't Give Up Skeleton." Why have I not thought of that in 30 episodes that I've recorded of that dumb podcast? Oh my god!
Just remember. Have you not done it?
Remember, I've never done it once, Richard. Not a single time.
Just remember, don't give up.
Don't give up, Skeleton. Oh,
don't give up, Skeleton.
I'm gonna have to go back and edit all of those podcasts. Thank you very much, Richard. I appreciate it.
That's fine. We'll do the outro music, which is "Don't Give Up, Skeleton. Keep on rolling those dice. Don't give up, Skeleton. Remember to put it at the end of your podcast." There you go.
That's great.
Thanks again. Okay. Bye, everyone. Say bye, Jeremy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.